Hey guys, this is Torna, and today we're going to be talking about my top 20 commanders from 2023. So these should be all ones that were released during 2023, new commanders from any of the, completely new sets. So, anything from Lost Caverns of Ixalan Commander all the way down to like March of Machine and stuff along those lines. I did not cover any of like the, Dominaria Remastered in here, or, like the Angels, just like that's a bit cooler. And, just kind of going through my top 20. Now, this is not necessarily going to be, the 20 strongest. They are going to be interesting though, some of them. They're going to be fun commanders in my opinion, and they're going to be ones that I enjoy and I suggest for people to kind of check out. So before we get into it though, I'm trying to hit just 500 subscribers at the moment. We're only 21 away, so if you feel free to chuck us a sub, the best Christmas gift, I guess, would be if we could hit 1,000 before Christmas, but we'll see how we go. So first up, we've got Hakbal of the Surging Soul here, primarily a merfolk commander built around kind of explore and everything. There is so much that you can do with him. He's just, he's relatively very strong, as well as being able to be an amazing kind of merfolk commander, built around, the +1/+1 command, counters, plus the whole merfolk thing. You've got, being able to chuck out a whole bunch of extra lands and everything from him as well, because whenever he attacks, you can play a land, or just draw cards. There's lots of really great stuff you can potentially do with him as your commander. You can even go into like the explore section where you chuck stuff into your graveyard and then be able to bring it back. Not that there's too much of that in either green or blue, but you've got that kind of option there. Next up is Pantlaza, an amazing dino commander. Lots of really, really cool stuff that you can potentially do with him. Not just, cheat out the dinosaurs and everything, but you got the option of being able to kind of blink stuff around to be able to bring in some more dinos. You've got some really great stuff that you can potentially do with him. The discover mechanic is really fun and I enjoy it a lot. And there's lots of different dinosaurs that you can potentially use it with, like, something like Golta the Stampede Tyrant or something like that. You can use him to be able to cheat in some big stuff. There's lots of really, really great stuff with him. Next up is Don Andreas, an amazing theft commander. I'm building mine around theft, and honestly, he's really fun. There's lots of really cool cards that you can do around theft. Obviously, a little bit to kind of do with pirates, kind of going in a little bit into that pirate kind of theme there. But most of my deck is built around stealing stuff, whether it's, stealing people's spells, stealing people's creatures, kind of building up in my creatures from you. And it's just a really fun way to kind of play the game, in my opinion. Next up, we've got Kuztil here, who is one who is incredibly strong. She is going to be incredibly strong here, making it so that opponents can't cast any spells during your turn. Just really great. Making it so that you can't be counterspelled, making it so that people can't flash things in, etc. Whenever one or more creatures you control that also has, greater power than their base power attacks, you also get to draw a card. So therefore, you've got that additional card draw in the commander zone. So there's lots of really great stuff you can potentially do with her, whether it's going to be a deck built around, +1/+1 counters, whether it's built around fight and buffing up your creatures or something. Most likely, the +1/+1s, but there's lots of great stuff you can potentially do with her here that's going to be really amazing. Next up, we've got the War Doctor and Ryan Sinclair. Now, I've specifically chosen Ryan Sinclair as the the companion to go with the War Doctor because they synergize incredibly well. But if you don't know the way that Discover and Cascade work, for example, when you're discovering or cascading, you're drawing one card at a time and exiling one card at a time, which means every time you do that, the War Doctor is going to be getting a time counter. So it can get to the point that whenever he attacks, you're dealing 40 damage to something, whether it's, just being able to, it's against a target, so you can potentially do it against just wipe someone out of the game while you're attacking someone else with your War Doctor with a billion freaking time counters on it. Ryan Sinclair is built around exiling and being able to do it's essentially kind of similar to kind of Cascade kind of thing. So you've got the option of being able to kind of, you know, do that from the command zone, in addition to the War Doctor just coming out with a huge amount of damage there. And when you've got, you know, red and white, you've got a lot of different options for Cascade. Like even like the new Quintaurus, for example, has is Quintaurus even suggested here? Yeah, the new Quintaurus has Discover 4 built in. So you've got a lot of different cards that you're able to kind of synergize well with him there. We've got the 13th Doctor and Yasmin. Yasmin enabling you to exile a card, and then until the next turn you can play it. While the 13th Doctor is just incredibly strong because she's going to make it so that you're going to put a +1/+1 counter every time you cast something from exile. So very similar to, you know, the War Doctor, but instead of built around, you know, a big kind of turn and stuff, she's more built around slowly kind of buffing things up and then untapping all your stuff as well at the beginning of your end step, because anytime something has a counter on it, you're going to be able to untap it. We've got the Master Multiplied. As you can see, I kind of love the Doctor Who stuff, but Master Multiplied is just a really interesting way to be able to build a deck, because he's built around like making it so that things can't be sacrificed at the end of your turn. So the triggered abilities that make you sacrifice stuff makes it so you can't sacrifice it. So whether that's Myriad, whether it's, you know, the different clone abilities, there's different tokens. There's lots of cool stuff that you can potentially do here. We have a look at like the, you know, the high synergy cards here. Otharri here, making it so that you create a token that's a copy of something. First of all, you can ignore the legend rule. Second of all, you don't have to sacrifice it at the beginning of your next end step. So there's lots of really great stuff you can potentially do with the Master here. We've got Brenard here. So moving on to the Wilds of Eldraine stuff here. Brenard is a very interesting character, built around bringing your stuff back as food golems and then buffing up those food golems and giving them trample. So you can kind of build some really interesting kind of token-ish kind of decks here, around kind of bringing out everything you've got as food golems or sacrificing it and then bringing it back. Lots of really, really interesting stuff you can potentially kind of build up from him. Worst case scenario, something dies, you can bring it back anyway, as like a food golem here. So there's lots of really interesting stuff that you can potentially do here, as well as, you know, the fact that they're food golems, you can sacrifice them and get some health if you kind of get to the point that you're kind of running out of stuff. We've got Talion, the Kindly Lord here. Very interesting, built around you choosing a number between 1 and 10 when he comes in, and then whenever someone casts something of that CMC, you're going to be, oh sorry, it's not just CMC, mana value, power, or toughness of that chosen number. You get to draw a card, you get to make them lose life. So, you know, you choose something like 2 or 3 or something like that someone's going to be casting a lot of kind of spells around. And then all of a sudden, you're getting more card draw. You're making them lose life. They kind of have to make that choice between, do I cast this card that's, you know, 3 power, 3 toughness, 3 mana value, or do I just need to find something else? And do I need to choose removal to get rid of this guy, or what do you kind of build him around? I do think that he's one of the best options for a fairy commander. While he doesn't do anything specifically to do with fairies himself, he definitely kind of can lead some of those fairies and into like control stuff, or, you know, even like sending stuff back to people's hands. Lots of really cool stuff you can potentially do here. Like, you know, Cyclonic Rift, the whole enemy's board, they've, you know, already paid to play all their 2-cost stuff, and now all of a sudden it's all back in their hand, and now they have to be like, oh, what do I do here? Yeah, lots of really cool stuff you can potentially do there. Eriette of the Charmed Apple, I love this idea of chucking out a whole bunch of auras, kind of whether they're going to be negative ones onto enemies, or whether they're going to be, you know, positive ones onto enemies, and once you kind of chuck them onto an enemy, you know, you can go, let's see what some of the suggested cards here, suggested enchantments here. So we've got Nurgle's Rot here, enchant something that someone else controls, and then, you know, you're going to be able to get stuff, or, you know, you can goad creatures. There's lots of really cool stuff you can potentially do here, whether it's going to be negative positive effects, whether it's going to be positive effects, and then all of a sudden you can kind of chuck it on the enemy's commander, and they're not going to be able to send it back at you to attack you or anything like that, because it's buffed up from you. And then in addition to that, you're going to be able to gain a whole bunch of life, make opponents lose life from just chucking out a whole bunch of auras over and over again. We've got Anikthea, so moving into like Commander Masters here. She's a very interesting commander, built around enchantments as well. I like enchantment decks, not that I have one kind of built up at the moment. I kind of have one built up. I got to build more enchantment decks because I just really like the idea behind enchantment decks. But she's going to make it so that all your enchantment creatures have menace, as well as making it so that whenever she enters the battlefield or attacks, you can exile one target non-aura enchantment card from your hand, and then you can create a token that's a copy of that, except as a zombie. So you can bring in your enchantments this way to make them into creatures, which is just very, very interesting. I love that idea. She's the commander, obviously, of one of the precons as well, the enchantment precon that came out with Commander Masters. A little bit kind of on the expensive side, but there's lots of really cool stuff that you can potentially do with her here. Like, you know, just having a look at like the highest suggested cards here, building around, you know, bringing in a whole bunch of enchantments, as well as, you know, using them to kind of create creatures and stuff. We've got Aragorn the Uniter here. I really like this from a Legends deck, building it around, I believe this was currently, I built my Doctor Who deck around like the Doctors and Aragorn, because if you don't know the way his ability works is that when you cast something that's multicolored, so say for example you cast something that's white, blue, red, you can do all three of these abilities here, which is very interesting, and I really love that idea of kind of going in there, chucking in some really cool multicolored legends and stuff, and then all of a sudden you're getting a whole bunch of value from him, whether it's, you know, being able to create tokens, being able to scry, being able to deal damage, buffing up a creature as well. We've got Frodo and Sam here around, you know, the life gain and around the food. Lots of really cool stuff that has kind of come out from them. And they are like one of the stronger commanders, I think. They're just really fun to play as well as a very interesting kind of, you know, when you combine them with like, you know, so they're white, green, black here. You can go in and combine them with, Brenard here, or at least, you know, combine Sam. So Sam makes it so the activated abilities of your foods cost one less, and then if you've made Brenard bring something back as a food golem that has an activated ability, then all of a sudden it's going to be costing less. You obviously can't bring Frodo in there, but you've got that option at least of, you know, if you want to bring Sam along into that deck. But overall, these two combined just form a really cool deck around life gain. Their actual precon needs, you know, some adjustments to kind of lean more heavily into that. But combined together, like you can just see here that they are, despite the fact that they've come out this year, they're still ranked 99 in regards to how many decks have kind of been built around them. So there's lots of really, really cool stuff, and it's going to be the case that there's always going to be more life gain stuff kind of coming out. There's always going to be stuff, you know, built around food and stuff, especially now that, you know, they've become like a bigger mainstream kind of token and stuff. So there's going to be really cool stuff that you can potentially do with these. Next up, we've got Sidar here. This one here is a very, very interesting commander. So Sidar was March of the Machine, built around knights and stuff, but the way it kind of works is very interesting. So when you attack with one or more knights, even if Sidar is in your command zone, so bringing back that eminence, you're going to be able to draw a card and then discard. So even if, you know, Sidar's sitting over there, then you're still going to have that card draw advantage there. But the great thing about Sidar is that if you, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, sorry. If Sidar is in like dealing combat damage, then you get to return something. So all of a sudden you've got, you know, you're discarding a card, you're drawing a card, you're discarding one, but then you can bring it back anyway. Back onto the battlefield as well. It's not even back into your hand, it's back onto the battlefield. So there's lots of really cool stuff you can potentially do this to cheat out some really big knights. Like if we have a look at the creatures here, there is lots of like, you know, like look at the Silverwing Squadron here. You know, 6 cost, but you're going to be able to play it for free here. You've got, you know, Aladar and Azor here. Sorry, Alenda and Azor. You've got some really great knights that you can potentially be able to cheat in for nothing, just for dealing combat damage. And, you know, even then, Sidar has flying, so it's going to be less likely you get blocked and more likely you're going to be able to deal that damage anyway. We've got Thalia and the Gitrog monster. Being able to play an extra land on each of your turns is great. Creatures and non-basic lands, your opponent enters its tap, so you got some control there. And then on top of that, you've also got whenever you attack, you can sacrifice a land, a creature or land, and then draw a card. So you've got extra card draw here. You've got, and then, you know, being able to just be able to bring them back via playing different things that are going to be able to bring back stuff from your graveyard, or being able to kind of just completely control the battlefield. And it doesn't really matter because, you know, you've got kind of that control there already. We've got Otharri. I had to mention this one because not just is it a decent commander, and I really like it as a commander, but overall it just fits in so many different decks. I run Otharri currently in my Karlach Inspiring Leader deck, and I'm just pumping out rebels, just millions of rebels, because each time you attack you're going to put an extra experience counter on, but then, you know, you attack, put one on, and then you get to attack again and you're putting 2 on, as well as the fact that you can bring her back from your graveyard. That's just really, really interesting, and I really love the design of that. I really like the commanders that you can play not just from your, like, from actually on your battlefield, like being able to play your commander from the battle from your graveyard or stuff. Sorry, not being able to just play them from the command zone, being able to play them from battlefield, or being out from the graveyard, or being able to bring them back from your hand, or back into your hand or stuff, is just really interesting. I really love that idea. We've got Atraxa, Grand Unifier, Phyrexian. I pronounced it wrong last time. I apologize. Phyrexian, there's lots of really cool stuff. That's cool Phyrexian stuff you can do here. You've got Infect, you've got Blink. I think the Blink is best. I don't, you know, I like kind of the idea behind Blink decks, and there's lots of really cool stuff you can do with her, with, you know, stuff that does stuff when it enters the battlefield, like, you know, just having a look at some of the stuff that's like suggested down here. Blink is really, really heavy in here because there's lots of really cool stuff you can potentially do with this. Being able to, you know, have additional card draw to start with, like being able to put them from your deck just straight into your hand is just really cool, as well as, you know, just synergize it well with other kind of Blink stuff, with, like, you know, Ghostly Flicker and stuff along those lines. Lots of really cool stuff you can potentially do there. Ovika, a very, very interesting spell slinger blue-red deck around, you know, just chucking creatures that are like just playing spells, and really, really cool spells. But then from there, having those spells out, just creating a huge swath of Phyrexian goblins, because there's lots of really, like, big spells you can potentially cast here. And then from there, being able to kind of, you know, have them out, as well as being able to then create, like, you know, a huge amount of these, and then just buff them up, and then you're creating more from buffing them up and stuff. There's lots of great stuff, as well as the ward, like ward 3 plus play life 3. You know, it's going to take a while to get him out because of the fact that he's, you know, 7 CMC, but from there you've got, you know, lots of really, really great stuff you can potentially do from there. You've got Urtet, Remnant of Memnarch, a Mir, built around kind of like, you know, Mir and artifacts and stuff. There's lots of really interesting stuff you can potentially do there, and I really like the idea behind him. I'm not going to focus too much on him. I don't know too much about him, but I do like the idea behind him, and I do think that he's a really great, you know, commander that you can potentially run here as an artifact leader, or like a Mir deck or something like that. There's lots of really interesting stuff you can potentially pull off there. And then the final one here is Grass. You know, being able to chuck out, I like the idea behind, you know, just artifacts, like chucking out heaps and heaps of artifact creatures that are just tiny artifact creatures. So, you know, around the kind of the Eldrazi tiny ones, or, you know, the Mir Battle Spear, there's lots of really great, like, you know, play a 1/1 Mir and stuff. There's lots of great kind of cards that are kind of built around that, and then you can take those, or Thopters as well. There's lots of Thopters. You can take those, and then all of a sudden you're turning them all into 5/3 juggernauts, and then, you know, just being able to kind of just decimate people with these huge kind of juggernauts that you're just chucking at them repeatedly. Anyway, that's my top 20. I'd love to hear from you guys. If there's one on here that you love, I'd love to hear from you. If there's one that you think that I've missed that I would love, I kind of went with the ones that, you know, they had to kind of meet 3 different kind of criteria. one, that they're really fun, 1, that they're decently strong, and 3, that I just like them. You know, and you know, I don't know, these ones are runs that I really like. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Have a great day and goodbye.